go back to the way England used to do it, right? And we can go back to that system, right? The supply chain was good enough and it was resilient enough,
and robust
that
enough.
Robust enough that if something went wrong, people still had food in their cupboards.
Absolutely.
Still people in their larders.
Yep.
They had their own chickens. They had their own, in some cases, geese.
Yep.
Right. They had their own allotments in the back garden.
Yep.
Turned their own earth and grew stuff. They done all of these things, and right. You then had the distribution centres that had the food, and you had the farmers and how they used to store everything, right? So why it's important to emphasise that, because this is coming back to the analogy with supermarkets being the core of their strategy to destroy England, right? Food chain, and starve us to death, is simply because that system is what they call just-in-time supply chain, right? If anything happens to that supply chain, if anything happens to the farmers on that side of the supply chain, if anything happens on the network of rail, road, etc., on that supply chain, your food is gone. If you live in a city,
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, and I would say that's where we are now. I would say that one of the things I'm finding through the audience that I've got on my social media is that a lot of people who are living in the cities are starting to wake up to what's happening.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who are really getting concerned. And I always say, people say, you suggest get out of the city as quick as you can.
You should be worried.
You should be not only worried, you should be terrified.
Yeah.
And within the next few months, and I see, we're at a precipice with this, that the whole thing is about to collapse.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people are really yet, despite all of the people like us talking about this, people are still not genuinely, in my opinion, believing this is going to happen.
They won't do their own research.
No, and they won't. And I think...
And we're described, so in the medical profession, people like us, who do our own research, do our own thing, and go and read the medical papers, etc., then people would be called quacks.
Yeah.
Right? And they use this terminology to try and discriminate against you and make out that you're some sort of lunatic.
Yeah.
When in fact you're not. All you're doing is repeating the evidence that you've seen of it.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because pre-pandemic, when my children were talking to me, and this is what I find the ironic side of this. So pre-pandemic, 2 weeks before the pandemic started, I messaged my children on a WhatsApp group and said, right, I know you're going to think Dad's a bit out of the way here, but please take notice what I'm going to say. Within the next 2 weeks, they're going to shut the world down, and we're never going to go back to where we started. There is going to be horrendous food shortages because the supermarket supply chain is not going to stand this.
Correct.
But this is a trial, and understand this is a trial. So what I ended up with was my oldest daughter come back to me and said, yeah, Dad, I'm absolutely got the pantry stacked up. I've been thinking this is coming, don't worry. The next one down, old Dad, you are funny. She said, I live on an army base with Chris, and we've no chance of us going hungry. My youngest daughter said to me, oh Dad, she said, you're funny. She said, I've just been at Tesco's, I've got loads of food.
Yeah.
My son, who lives with his daughter, with my daughter and her husband, said, well, I ain't got to worry, Lavinia does the shopping. And that's,
that's their mentality.
Right? And so within, let's say 3 weeks, it wasn't 3 weeks, but I'd got a message from my youngest daughter's daughter to say, Grandad, we haven't got any food in the house. I said, well, why didn't Mummy ring me? Mummy daring, because you tell her off. You're right, I would. She needs telling off.
Yeah.
So, how did we get? And I'll go around and come back to this because it's important, right? That we drum this home. So, when that all kicked off, I was running a farm shop, right, on another farm I had, and the farm shop took £100 a day.
Yeah.
And every week we sold 10 vegetable boxes.
Yeah.
Okay? And within inside 2 days, we sold £30,000 a day and sold 400 veg boxes a day. And it went up and up and up and up, right? Supermarkets couldn't deal with what was going on, right? They crashed to the ground. I got on the phone and phoned all the farmers I knew and said, what have you got? They said, oh, actually, Mark, we've got potatoes, or we've got this, we've got that, or whatever it might be. I said, I've got cash sitting here waiting for you. Now, that one was the one what really sparked imagination, right? So farmers going, oh, well, that's all right. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you've got some cash, I won't send them cauliflowers to Tesco's in their broken system. You come get them, and I'll have your cash now instead of in 120 days, 150 days' time, right? So we'd go and we were dealing. And I'd gone to one potato farm and I said to the farmer, I said, like, I just can't keep up. We're going to get 60 bags on the van at a time. And I said, like, I've already got the next 3 van loads sold. And he said, would it help if I bought an Arctic load over? Now, bearing in mind, we would normally sell 5 bags a week. And suddenly someone wants to rock up with like 1,000 sacks of potatoes. And I'm like, well, we're going to sell them with no trouble. Right? So he turns up. Within 24 hours, we've sold 1,000 sacks of potatoes. And we watched it go up and up and up, and then the supermarkets gradually got things sorted out. They allowed people to go shopping again. They allowed people, and I say allowed because that's how the public saw it. Oh, we've been really lucky to let us out again. I can honestly say there was not one point in that entire bullshit that I ever once put a mask on, never once did I ever take any notice of what they told me.
Just to make sure you understand. So where I live on the 2nd floor, and Nigel Farage, in his moment of madness, was banging his pots and pans outside his house, and there's videos of it, right? And I was encouraging all these people to come out on a Thursday night at 6 o'clock, and everyone was standing, right? When all of my neighbours did that, I opened my windows, I've got a massive loudover, and I was literally shouting at them, stop clapping like seals for your own demise. What is the matter with you people, right? And people didn't understand what was going on. I said, you're all being psychologically brainwashed, right?
Programmed.
You're programmed, that's completely right. So again, you see a situation where when the system was broken, the supply chain started to break, people had to try and return back, right? Which means it's a bit like computerised systems. So as a systems engineer, you don't have to computerise every element of a system, right? Sometimes in life, it's much better to have a human operator or human interaction with that system, right? So in that system, it's a bit like going back to the old. Does everyone remember the Rolodex? Right, you used to have a Rolodex with telephone numbers on it, right? And as you go through them, you'd ring someone and say, oh yeah, Rolodex, there's a number after. And in the old days in sales, you could have a Rolodex full of people that you'd speak to, and you had to go through each part of your Rolodex every day, right? You're going back to the old system because the old system hasn't failed. It still works, and it will work, and it is robust, and it works under any stress situations, even in war, which is what happened with us. That's why they had to destroy this system. So again, getting back to that, so one of the things that is frustrating about the whole COVID BS is the way that the people, many of us, come out on the streets, the real food thinkers, was out there, over 1 million people marched. None of the mainstream media would show that anywhere. We was all showing people this is wrong. Rebels on roundabouts, which was fantastic. Stand in the parks, fantastic. But then it appears that when the government has normalised things, a lot of these people have just drifted back and they think it's all over. That it's not over.
No. It's what I say, like I said to my kids, this is a dry run. And what in my opinion, what happened was the supermarkets were part of playing out the system. So they dropped it from the health side to see how far they could push people on the health side. They dropped the food side to see how far they could push people on the food side. And as the people started, and I think what happened was that a lot of the farmers, because of what they've always done, well, we grow stuff and we sell stuff. If someone knocks on the door at 5 o'clock in the evening and says, you've got a bag of potatoes, Bob, they go, yeah, absolutely. Took a fiver. Christ, I've had a right result, right? And the farmers and the greengrocers and the butchers and the bakers and candlestick makers adapted really quickly to what happened, like we did.